What I realized is that all the sales problems were my own fault. Money is the outcome of doing something well.
This is a sales call, and you probably want to hang up on me. I've stolen that, and it works.
So if you say to somebody, would you like extra fries with that, or do you want to go light? Yeah, all right, go on then. I was going to do it anyway, but I just wanted someone else to take the guilt off me.
Well, Benjamin, I actually think that that's the number one problem with salespeople is there's an opportunity in front of them, and they get rid of it.
I don't need you to like me. I need you to trust me. If you want to be treated differently in the sale, you have to act differently. And most salespeople act the same way. They show up, they throw up, and they hope that they'll take all the glory when they win, but when they lose, it wasn't their fault. I'm a mini theologian. I love theology.
Jeff Stearns, connected through cars. If they're bigwigs, we'll have them on the show. And yes, we'll talk about cars and everything else. Here he is now, Jeff Stearns.
Jeff Stearns, connected through cars with the most hated sales trainer in the UK, Benjamin. Now, I got to tell you who Benjamin is, and you're thinking, what would the most hated sales trainer in the UK have to do with Jeff Stearns, connected through cars? Well, for those who've gotten to know me either personally or through my shows, you know that I have this extensive car business background, which is really sales oriented. And a lot of the people that we've had on, entrepreneurial or whatever, it all starts with sales. What Benjamin and I were just talking about before we hit the record button was you could even have the cure for cancer, but if you can't get through to someone or get the first doctor to try it, it wouldn't matter. I've been watching Benjamin's YouTube channel, and your channel, Benjamin, is UK's most hated sales trainer. Am I right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I wanted to get you all plugged, as much as possible right in the beginning, because once we get past my typical 22 to 28 second viewer time length, sticking with us, I want to make sure. I want to turn it over to you here in a minute. I want you to tell us all the ways to get a hold of you right up front. And I wouldn't mind a little origin from you because I'm enamored by what you do doing live sales calls on your YouTube channel. I'm nuts over you.
Right. So folks, if you want to get a hold of me, the place that I hang out most is LinkedIn. So if you just put in LinkedIn, UK's most hated sales trainer, you'll find me. Also my YouTube channel, UK's most hated sales trainer, or ironically, my website, UK's most hated sales trainer.com. And if you need to email me, ironically, it's my name, Benjamin, at UK's most hated sales trainer.com. So if anything,
and this will all be in the show notes, Benjamin. I'll have it in there. So you guys can look below when you're subscribing and liking because of Benjamin, finally. So Benjamin, give us a little origin. It's so darn interesting. You do these YouTube videos about you cold calling into businesses and, of course, calling out salespeople on their normal excuses. But I'm dying to know your background.
Right. All right. So originally I'm from New Zealand. I'm a pretend Englishman. And I qualified as a lawyer, as you'd say, an attorney, a barrister under the British system. I qualified as a barrister. I was going to spend my life defending criminals. That was the plan. But I wanted to do some travel before I grew up. So I come to England, which is where anyone from the colonies normally first port of call is you go to England, you go to the motherland. So arrived in England, started working in bars and pubs back in the day. So this is like the year 2000. I arrived just on the turn of the century. So would work in pubs and you get free board, free food, free drinks, and you get paid, and then you save up money and you go traveling and then you'd come back. And so I loved that lifestyle and I did that for several years. Then I decided time to go home, time to grow up, go back to New Zealand. Of course, after experiencing the world, New Zealand, I suppose New Zealand's a lot like Wichita, Kansas, just an island. I thought, well, I'll go to England. So I returned to England. I thought, well, I'll just become a lawyer here. It doesn't quite work like that. You can't just start. They want to be, because I hadn't done 5 years post-qualifying experience, they wanted me to do another 2 years of training, qualify for their bar. And I thought, I don't want to do that. I can jump on a plane and practice back home. So I did what anyone else who needs a job and has no skills. What do? They go into sales. Yeah? That's how we end up in sales. Nobody wants this for themselves, yeah? It's the default position. When you've tried everything else, get a job in sales. So I started in recruitment. I set a company record. I was there for 6 months and I didn't recruit a single person. I was absolutely useless at it. Because I didn't know how to sell. I didn't know it was a sales. But one thing I had a unique skill. I was very good at getting appointments on the phone. And in fact, I was so bad, I was given a week's notice and said, Benjamin, you've got a week's notice. If you don't do anything, you're not going to be in the week after next. So that week I went back and I just hit the phones as hard as I could. And I got a lot of appointments. And so my manager delayed sacking me. He said, I'll tell you what, Benjamin, just do more of what you did this week. So I did it again and I got a lot more meetings. I'll tell you what, I'm going to give you a new job. You're no good at recruitment, but you are good at lead development and business. So we want you just solely hitting the phones and setting appointments for real recruiters to go on. Yeah, it seems easy. So that's what I did. So that's how I got into telephone prospecting. Then ironically, I got poached by another company. Can you believe it? And this company specialized in setting up appointments for advertising agencies in the city of London. I didn't know anything about advertising or marketing, but I figured how hard could it be? And again, I did very well at that. And so I decided to go out on my own. Why work for a company working on various accounts when I could find my own advertising agencies and sell in my service? So that's what I did, and I doubled my income overnight. And I got to pick who I work with. So for 8 years, all I would do would be telephone calls and set up appointments with virtually every brand you've probably consumed in a supermarket in England. And one of the CEOs of one of these agencies said, "You're very good. Why are you good?" I said, "Honestly?" He goes, "Yeah." I said, "I don't know." And he goes, "I'll tell you what, if you could figure out why you're good at what you do," he goes, "I think you'd make a lot of money because you could show other people how to do it." And I go, that's what started the journey on. Maybe I should figure out why I'm good at what I do. And so I started read lots of books on sales. And like I said, I don't knock any sales book. You got all these different methodologies. You got Spin, you've got Sandler, you got Zig Ziglar, you got the Challenger sale. What I realized is it's the psychology that underpins everything. And I was introduced to psychology and transactional analysis and things like that. What I realized is that all the sales problems were my own fault. And when I started realizing I had to change, it wasn't prospects that had to change. And I started realizing that selling was a lot like law. It was a system. It was a process. If I just did the same thing over and over again really, really well, I'd be continually successful. And then I figured out why struggling worked. I didn't know why, but then TA helped me understand it. So the psychology helped me understand why what I was doing intuitively worked. And then when you know why something works, you can do it deliberately and consciously. And that's what I started doing. And I started getting better and better and better and better at doing the same stuff over and over again, never deviating. If I screwed up, try and figure out what I did wrong and fix it. Realizing that any pressure I felt was all self-imposed. Prospects can't make you feel pressure, because they're not even in the room with you. So why do I feel pressure? So it's my fault. So they've said or done something that's triggered something inside of me. If I could stop that going off, I'll always be in control. And I spent years doing it, and then people started paying me to teach them how to do what I do. And I spent some time with a really great sales trainer who taught me a lot of stuff. And it's just, I've got better and better, but I don't change. It's like Ford production line. Nothing changes in my world.
I got to ask, where did the most hated trainer idea come from?
Well, I have LinkedIn and people's egos to thank for that. So I met a guy who was known as the UK's #1 motivational speaker. And I said, how did you become that? He goes, read page 26 of my book, which he gave me, so I didn't have to buy it. So he gave me his book. And on page 26, how did I become the #1 motivator? He goes, I made it up.
Okay.
And what he said is, and it's true, and what it is it's if you say something enough, people will believe it. So all you got to do is, Muhammad Ali, if somebody said to you, I am the greatest, who would you think of? And everyone goes,
Muhammad Ali.
Muhammad Ali. But, technically he wasn't. He just said it over and over again, that now anyone that comes along and says it, it's no, you're not. It's Muhammad Ali. So he said, find a space and create it. So I went on LinkedIn and I looked at other sales gurus. And this is what I noticed. They all called themselves leaders, gurus, #1, the best, leader, performer. And it's like, everyone wants to be loved. Look at me. Look how great I am. And I thought, no one wants to be hated, which means there's no one in this space, which means if I plant my flag, I'll own it. And that's where the UK's most hated, because no one wants to be hated. And I thought, all I got to do is say that over and over again, which was weird to do when you first started, standing up in front of a room full of people, setting out in a business saying, hi, my name's Benjamin, I'm the UK's most hated sales trainer. But it resonated with people. And I kept pushing it. And It allows me to be my personality, to be particularly blunt and direct, which is what salespeople need. And so that's how it came about. It was to not be or sound like all the other LinkedIn experts.
So, Benjamin, whether it's someone famous or someone close to you, could you name 3 people that were inspirational to you that you draw back on?
Yeah, so Marcus Kalki, he's a sales trainer. He's got his own business now. We're still good friends. He mentored and got, so he was bigger. I have to say this, it always sounds cheesy and cliche, but I got to say my wife, because she supported me. The number of times I wanted to, quit doing what I was doing because I couldn't make it work, because changing oneself was hardest. And if you don't have a supportive wife and you got a baby and you quit your job and you say, I'm just going to do this. So she's been important. Who's the third person?
I don't think that's cheesy at all for you to give the credit to your wife. I think more people need to do that, because if you don't have that support at home, it's really hard to go out and do what you need to do.
It is. And I've met so many people that have said, I want to be able to do what you do. I want to set up a business. And I go, why? And I want to make money. I go, well, if money's your motivation, this is bad, because you're going to be poor for the next 3 to 5 years. So that's not, you've got to have a passion that, if you get good at it, the money will come. And does your wife support you? No, she thinks it's a stupid idea. Then I wouldn't do it, because it ain't going to work.
You'd mentioned that, if money is the motivator, that could be dangerous because you'll be poor for a while. On another show, I had a recorded conversation with Malcolm Bricklin. Malcolm Bricklin, the father of Subaru in North America, made his first $1 million take-home pay in the bank when he was 18, 19 years old, around the year 1960. And what he said on the show was that he learned that money was not the motivator. It has to be passion, because when he got that money, he got paralyzed. All he worried about is not taking away from or damaging the $1 million that he had. He didn't want to touch it at all. It never mattered before because he never had it. So he was a little bit paralyzed. He was contracted. He wasn't making any moves. And then he finally decided to he had kids already, to put the money in his kids' names in trust so that he couldn't mess it up, and then went out and started working again. The money messed him up. Finding the next thing that he was crazy about is what got him going.
Yeah, and I think that's it. Money is the outcome of doing something well. And I think most successful people know that. If you're a good lawyer, you make a lot of money. But your primary goal is to be a good lawyer. If you're a good surgeon, you make a lot of money. Good golfer, you make a lot of. The money is secondary. It just comes. But if you're only focused on the outcome, which is I want to make a lot of money, you probably won't get good at what you do. So it's not, there's an exception to every rule, obviously. But no, I believe you need a passion. It's something you're going to love doing. And I loved doing what I did. So yeah, and so the third one, I'm going to say something controversial because he helped me with my brand. It's your ex-president, Mr. Trump. It was his red hat. It was all that when I saw that, I thought, I'm nicking that. Yeah. What are they? There's that saying, isn't it? That genius creates, but brilliance steals. Yeah, and I'm a true believer in that. If somebody's got a good idea, then you nick it and you use it. And everything I teach, I've stolen. I haven't made any of this stuff up. I'm upfront about that. It's all stolen, but I just got good at doing stuff that people said you should get good at doing, rather than read it and stick it on my bookshelf so everyone can think I'm smart.
You were talking about the stuff that's in your head as a salesperson. All the obstacles are in your head. Can you debunk or can you bust a myth?
Right, so yeah, this is one of my favourite things. So we are the product of a program. The Romans used to have a saying, give me a boy until the age of 7 and I will show you the man. So they knew, before modern psychiatry and all our medicine, they knew that the first 7 years were the most formative in the development of a child. Yeah, and so it's true. So now you look back at what were you taught as a child that could prevent you from being any good at selling. And there were a lot of rules there are 3 in particular that stand out, that you were taught as a child that no one ever told you don't apply as a grown-up. So you have what psychiatrists call scripted behaviours, and it's a programming. One of the rules we were all taught was never talk to strangers.
Right. The opposite of cold calling.
Now that's a great rule. It's a great rule for a child, but no one, when I ask anyone, did your mum or dad ever tell you that rule doesn't apply when you're a grown-up? And everyone goes, no. Right, so it's there. It's still there. It's still a rule. Then you get the other rule. What were we all taught? It's rude to interrupt. So now, You're rude to interrupt. Again, did anyone tell you as a grown-up you can interrupt anybody you want? No. Right, so that's another rule you've got in there. And then the final one is you were programmed that you had to answer questions. Your entire life, growing up, your mum and dad be pointing at pictures in a book. What's that? What's that? What's this? What's that? If you got it right, you got praise. Very important to a developing brain. You need the praise, the smile, so you feel all good about yourself. You feel loved. You feel accepted. If you got it wrong, depending on childhood, it could be anywhere from locked into the basement through to what most of us I hopefully got was, no, try again. So you try again, and you kept going until you got it right. When you got it right, you got praise again. So your brain was programmed that A, it should always answer a question, and B, it should always try to give the right answer. Again, no one told you that that doesn't apply as a grown-up. No one said, answering questions is an option. You didn't have that right as a child. It was an absolute mandated behavior. So now, fast forward to 25 years of age. You get a new job, sales job. They give you a list of CEOs who you've never spoken to before. You know they're busy because they're a busy guy. It's CEO. Yeah? And then they say, phone them. And as you pick up that phone, all these tapes start playing. Your mum starts screaming at you. What are you going to say to him when you get through? He's a stranger. He's not going to want to be interrupted. How are you going to answer his questions? Do you know he's going to know a lot? So they're self-sabotaging even before the guy answers. And then when the guy answers, they act all startled. Hi, sorry to disturb you. Look, my name's Benjamin from... How are you today? And they all say the same thing. Fine. And no one ever says, it's awful, my wife...
And they're thinking... What do you care? It's
insincere, but they just, because it's a reaction, they don't know what to do. Somebody, I just like a little bit of time to introduce, and the guy, I'm not interested, bye. It's like, well, no wonder it didn't work. You know what the average salesman's thinking when the phone's dialing? Do you know what's going through the average salesman's head as the phone is dialing?
They're thinking about some kind of abuse or pain about to happen or rejection.
Most are thinking, please don't answer. Please don't answer. Please.
Oh, please don't answer. Okay.
Yeah. And then when they do, you see, they want to be seen to be doing the behavior, but they don't want to actually do it. Yeah? And then they have a bad call. They have to spend 5 minutes putting that into the CRM system to buy them some room. Then they got to figure out the next. So there's about 6 minutes in between each call now. Yeah, then after about 40 minutes and 5 dud calls, they go, I've had enough. I'm knackered. It's like you've done nothing. But it's these rules. You can't interrupt. It's rude to interrupt. You better have an answer to their question. And it's a stranger. And then the authority, you hear your mum say, what are you going to say to him when you get through? You're an account executive. This guy runs a successful business. So this is all the head trash that's going on. And it's getting people to realize you don't have to listen to your mum and dad anymore. Stop taking mum to work. Leave her at home.
You, on one of your videos... Instead of saying, could I just have 5 minutes to tell you what I have or a half a minute or whatever, you said, listen, this is a sales call and you probably want to hang up on me. I've stolen that and it works. So if anyone in the audience, because it's refreshing, I think, or you know what? I'm not even going to call it refreshing. If we're going to get down to the science, I think it's a pattern interrupt. You said that there's a reflex when, can I help you in a store? Can I help you just looking? How are you? Fine, but nothing sincere. I don't think there's a reflex answer. Listen, this is a quick sales call, and you're probably going to want to hang up on me. There's nothing inside of them ready to deal with that.
Well, so there is a psychology behind it, and so people try and imitate it, but they get the wording wrong. It's all quite specific. So, I say, look, I'll be upfront, this is a sales call. So you can either hang up now or let me have 30 seconds. What do you want to do? Now, I ask that question. First, I ask a question, because I know that guy's been programmed the same way everyone else was. He has to answer his question. His mum is in his ear saying, you better answer the man. So he answers. I deliberately, and this is why it works on CEOs and decision makers well. Yeah, because, what do guys at the top what do they hate the most? They hate being told what to do. So I deliberately tell them what to do. And the rebellious child reacts gutturally and says, no, I ain't going to hang up. Well, what's it about? So I've changed the call from being a cold call to a permission-based call. So the psychology is that. So now he said, talk to me. And it works 95% of the time. Every now and then someone doesn't like it. But the delivery, if you deliver it like a wimp, sorry to disturb. Look, I'll be up front. This is a sales call. Would you like to hang up? Yes. So if you don't deliver it, well, it won't work. And if you're talking to a decision maker, you've got to mirror them. You've got to sound like them. Short, sharp, clip to the point, assertive but not rude. And they react to it. It sounds like me. I like the cut of his jib. And also disarming honesty is the fastest way to bond with a stranger. And that is as disarmingly honest as it. I'll be upfront. It is a sales call. So, do you want to hang up now or let me have 30 seconds? What do you want to do?
Benjamin, that's awesome. I've always said that it's who you are when you're saying it. It's like the right person can almost deliver any script. It almost doesn't matter. And the right script, if you're not who you need to be when you're delivering it, it's not going to work. So are you aware of this either real or made up little feud between the Wolf of Wall Street and Grant Cardone?
I am aware of it. There's actually a YouTube channel of me critiquing Belfort and Cardone in an interview with another chap called Mike Winnett, and we critique these two guys. And
then perfect. I'll have to look at that, and I'll put that in the show notes. We will watch. But who did you have on coming out on top of that?
Cardone lost because I think his arguments never stacked up. And he's basically like a machine. Just do this and it'll work. And yeah, anybody who does anything enough, you will make sales. It's not hard to get someone to give you money. If you phone up and badger a lot of people, eventually someone will give in. But it's how do you repeat that and make it professional? You can't. So he kept falling and he gets to this bit where he said, I got fish. He goes, what if the guy don't want fish?
Right. Well, that's why you need 8,000 products or something. Right. Okay.
I don't need fish. You can't sell someone fish that doesn't want fish or need fish or desire fish. Yeah.
Right. And do you believe that no interest is a level of interest?
Now you've got to qualify. Is no interest a smokescreen objection to get rid of you, or is it real? So yeah, I teach that some objections are red lights and they can't be moved. Yeah, so some things aren't objections, they're statements of fact. Like if somebody said, we don't have salespeople. No, you must do. No, we don't. Honestly, Benjamin, we don't. We don't have any salespeople. We don't do any selling function. Unless I can prove them as a liar, that could be a state. And I've had a company say it. It turned out he was right. He didn't have any sales guys. It was not, his business got money coming in, but they didn't have to sell anything. It was like a commodity. There was no selling involved in this particular type of product. He just took orders. Like McDonald's doesn't have salespeople.
Right.
Yeah, there's no salespeople at McDonald's. You go in to place an order. You're not in there to make a decision on whether or not you want to buy. That's been made.
But you don't think the person at McDonald's, when they're asking to offer a hot apple pie with that and may have some bonus on that, you don't think one person's delivering that better and getting more hot apple pies? So,
it's possible some guy can make it more appealing, the upsell sort of thing. But they're not selling them something they probably wouldn't have bought anyway had they not been prompted. It's like the confectionery at the aisle as you go at the supermarket. It's deliberately put there. It's known as an invitation to treat. And they know that people can't resist. So if you say to somebody, would you like extra fries with that? Or do you want to go, yeah, all right, go on then. I was going to do it anyway, but I just wanted someone else to take the guilt off me.
Well, sales is so important. And it's funny because these days in the car business, there's a lot of conversation about, and by the way, my job is I'm VP of sales for Car Chat 24 and a couple other verticals, RV Chat, etc. But I'm talking to car dealers, and with COVID in the last year, something called digital retailing has become a big thing and a big word. And this is where the customer could do everything from A to Z online, maybe have the car delivered to them, maybe only show up to get the car, this sort of thing. The idea is that the customer wants to be in control. I actually disagree with that. I don't think the customer really wants to be in control. I think of going a little bit of a higher step above McDonald's in the restaurant business. I think that if you're at a decent restaurant where you want a decent experience, and the more expensive it is, I would say the more that the rule that you should be in control would apply. So let's say it's $100 a person before drinking. I say the customer doesn't want to be in control. I say that they want to run into somebody that can lead them. Like, we'll have the fish, and a good waiter is going to be like, I don't know about today. You want somebody to guide you. And you might think you want to be in control through all these steps in electronic step, but it really does take somebody to guide and lead. And I even think confront a little. What do you think?
No, I completely agree. I think all the online digital stuff is just a nice way of admitting they don't have good salespeople. They only had order takers anyway. So we can automate it. Then let's automate it. So you will always have some people. Some people have decided to buy a car and they're going to leave with a car. And you can put the right salesman in front. You can put a monkey in roller skates, strategically shaved, and they'd close that deal. Yeah. So that's that's not hard. Yeah, but yes, you are quite right. The experience is most prospects think they know what their problem is, but they don't. It's like going to a doctor. Most people go on Google now and they think they know more than the doctor. Well, you don't. You think you do because Dr. Google has given you all this info, but you still don't know because you don't know the questions to ask yourself. But I do because I spent years. You don't know these questions. You don't know that if you do this, that could happen, and then the chain reaction is this. You don't know that. So you don't know having the white Beaujolais with the monkfish actually will make it taste bitter. You don't know that. You think, well, so the concierge says, sir, I would recommend that you go more with a Beaujolais because, and I'll go, oh, okay, well, I'll take your advice. It is slightly more expensive, sir, but it will make the experience better. So you are right. Our job is to challenge the prospect. Unless you've got one, as I say, like the McDonald's person, I know what I want. I want McDonald's. I want to feed my sensation. I'm going to place an order. In fact, that's the only time a salesman can really screw up because they could actually turn you off. You can be such a dick they walk out.
Well, Benjamin, I actually think that that's the number one problem with salespeople is there's an opportunity in front of them and they get rid of it.
They talk themselves out of more deals than they talk into.
Yeah, I think it usually starts with hello. And, what I love about you, and I mean, look, audience, I want you to know that, I invited Benjamin on here because I'm like his honest to God fan. I mean, if you're in sales, if you're interested in sales, if you're not in sales, but you're just curious about the subject, like what goes on the other side, the guy's got it down and he's very, very real. And eventually we'll get into what the hell is it with the red suspender. But I notice, and maybe it's only because of what I've watched, I haven't gone through your whole video, I notice a lot of cold call opening, which has helped me a lot. Let me just say it's helped me a lot in calling into businesses to sell my software and consulting. But when it comes to closing, when I'm listening to Grant Cardone, it's volume of calls, just get in front of someone, volume. And then when I'm listening to Belfort, I'm hearing know when you're wasting your time or their time and know when to walk and, being a little more discerning. What I found, and I sold exotic cars for 10 years, the Rolls, the Bentley, the Lotus, the odd used Ferrari, Lamborghini, whatever. And, now even in the software business, it's the same. When I was in the exotic car business, we ended up number one certified pre-owned in the United States, number one Bentley Continental Order List in the United States, not the largest dealer in the country, but got close, which was interesting because we were in a city, Clearwater, Florida, where nobody drove one. So it wasn't like Lauderdale, Palm Beach, or Dallas, Houston, or Beverly Hills, or or New York, nothing like that. So I was proud of it. But what we did, three of us, is we made an average of, legitimately, we measured it, 100 outbound calls a day, leaving messages for people that we met. However, we would meet them at a charity fundraiser, or they were an inbound call from an exotic car advertising source, or we met them through a club or used our service department. However we met them, referred. And then we put them on a program of calling them I forget the interval now, every I think it was 2 months. And then when we got too many to call, we made it every 3 months so that we could manage it. We got it down to, by the way, the average nurture on those was 18 months. At the end of 5 or 6 years, we measured from meeting somebody to actually close them, the average to getting them into a car. The average was 18 months, and that meant for every athlete that got a sign-on bonus that came in and bought a car same moment, we had somebody else that we talked to for 3 years. But I called it a marketing job where selling a car got in the way. Now, here at Chat Lead, of course, I'm trying to sell someone sooner than a year and a half, although I've been here 9 years. I've certainly written people after 3, 4, or 5 years, or wrote them for the second or third time, when they've left and come back over 9 years. But tell me how you feel about this. What I found is that my rhythm gets screwed up if they want to start talking about buying and they want to start talking about money on one of the very first phone calls, because I find that if I can get some messages into them or some conversations into them prior to that my credibility is higher, my trust factor is higher, and my difficulty in negotiating is less because of who I am to them by the time we get to money. When it's early, I find that it's just a money struggle because I'm nobody to them yet. I didn't put in the work. So I'm not hoping they don't answer, like you said, like don't answer. I'm kind of hoping they don't buy yet, unless they just want to just take it and not make it difficult, but that's rare. But I'm a little bit at don't answer, not out of fear, but out of I want to get 3 or 4 more calls or conversations in before it comes down to money. What do you think about that?
Well, I believe in challenging. So my view of selling is there is more reasons for someone not to buy from me than there is to buy from me, which means I'm going to figure out why they can't buy with me and deal with it straight away. So that's the first thing I would say. The second thing is there's a difference, which I point out, there's a difference between a prospecting call and a sales call. A prospecting call is to get someone into the sales funnel. Selling is what you do once they're in front of you. So if you ask the average salesman, what is the purpose of a prospecting call? You get answers like, to get a meeting, to get a sale, to get an appointment, to find pain, to find need, to educate, to whatever. And I go, no, all of those are wrong. Because those are all outcomes. All of those are what you call a potential outcome. What is the purpose? And this is where everyone gets confused. You see, if you asked a lawyer, what is the purpose of a trial? They wouldn't say to get an acquittal, to get a conviction, to get a win. No. Those are outcomes of a trial. What's the purpose? And then they give you this philosophical, the purpose of a trial, blah, blah, blah. So what is the purpose of a prospecting call? It's simple. People buy emotionally and justify intellectually. So the purpose of a sales call is to get a human being who's sitting at their desk or wherever, happy as Larry, feeling intellectual, and make them feel a little bit emotional about whatever it is that I fix.
Well put.
So that is the purpose. That is all I'm there to do. I'm not there to sell anything. I want this guy to say, maybe you do have something, Benjamin, and perhaps we should explore it further. That's it, job done. I'll get the appointment, and then I'll sell. Now, if I'm in a sale and price comes up straight away, early on, and again, it all depends who you're talking to, but let's say it's the managing director or a president or CEO, and he says, so Benjamin, before we start, how much is this going to cost me? I give him a stroke. I go, that's a good question. I don't often get asked that question so early on in the process. Happy to answer that, but before I do, can I ask you one quick question? Oh, yeah. Is price going to be the only factor that you're considering? So if I get asked a question, the rule is never answer it, flick it back. It's not my problem to deal with. This is his. So I'm going to flick it back. When you flick it back to them, they say 2 things. They either say yes, or they say not entirely. And if I say yes, I go, in that case, I'm going to be up front. I'm going to cost more than you want to invest. So I set them up way more. Have you got a figure in your head of what you want to spend? Yeah, I go add 20%. Now
and then
double it.
I was waiting for that.
Yeah, that's probably what you're going to have to invest. Is that figure too high? So I go, look, and I deal with it like that. I answer that. Look, I'm happy to talk about price now, but I'm going to be honest, it's expensive. And before we worry about price, I haven't even decided if you could be my next client. Because in order for you to be my next client, you need to convince me that the size of your problem is outweighed by the fees I'm going to charge you.
That's awesome.
And that's it. I'm not going to sell you something if my fees aren't bigger than the size of your problem. Yeah. So somebody says, how much is it for this car? I go, that's a fair question. Normally when somebody asks me that, it means they're on a pretty tight budget. Is that the case here? Well, ballpark it for me. How much do you have to spend? Just roughly in figures. Now they'll lie. Yeah.
Right, of course. I won't hold you to it, right?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And then I'll give you a ballpark. Okay, so we'll only look at cars valued under $8,000 then, shall we? Yeah. Can I ask you a question? What if you see a car that ticks all your boxes but comes in at 9.5? And now, I don't know. Well, yes, you do. You got to say no, right? Can't buy it. Well, no, not necessarily. What do you mean? Well, I could maybe find. Or what? And they start. Well, the moment you threaten to take something away from someone, they start to find an excuse why they can figure out a way of getting there. And if they can't do that, it means they literally only have $8,000. Either way, I win because I know what I've got to work with here. Yes,
that is so interesting. My favorite answer to how much is that car is we're selling everything at half value today. What do you mean? I'm going to show you the car. Let me show it to you first. It's going to take me about 20 minutes to go around the whole thing. Then when I'm done, I'm going to show you the price on it. If you didn't think it was going to be twice as much, I'll show it to you again.
I like it. That's cool.
But I like how you open up with, I'm going to be upfront with you. I noticed that a lot of your lines, I'm going to be upfront with you.
Yeah, and I don't say let me be honest because it gives the impression that you're not.
Well, that's bullshit.
So
right.
I hate the phrase let me be honest. Yeah, so I'll be upfront. Yeah, so one of the things I teach people is I blow up bombs. And a bomb is something that I know in my world is likely to ruin my deal. So rather than wait for it to happen at the end, I destroy it at the beginning. I go, look, before we start the meeting, shall I tell you the 3 reasons you're going to tell me no today? And now everyone can't say, no, don't. They all, particularly MDs, CEOs and presidents, they go, no. I go, 1, I'm bloody expensive. If you're going to do this, you're going to be looking at investing anywhere between 50 and 100,000 pounds. So that's the first thing, the money. 2, time. Do you know how long it's going to take to get good at what I teach? This isn't a 2-day dog and pony show. We're going to be looking at a 6 to 12 month relationship of me coming in at least a couple of days a month with your sales guy. So that's a big commitment. And the third one is this. A lot of your guys are going to hate it and probably quit. So let me ask you a question. Let's pretend we decide we could and should work together. Are any of those going to be a reason we can't, even if you want to? And now we have a fight. And they argue with me why I'm wrong.
That is honestly beautiful.
And it takes courage to do that because most people, no, what if they say no? Good, I want to leave because they were never going to buy anyway. Yeah, but you've got to talk them round. Not if it's a red light. If he doesn't have that money and can't find it, it's not a bloody game show. It's over.
Is there anyone that you don't, or you won't work with?
Yeah, lawyers and accountants.
Why?
Because first, they'll never acknowledge they're in sales. They have a pathological, they're professional people. Yeah? In fact, it used to be so bad. A barrister in England traditionally wears a gown, and on the back would be a pocket. And the accused in the 19th and 18th century would have to stick the money in that little bag because they weren't allowed to touch it. Yeah, it's just tradition. Yeah, yeah.
So for us Americans, a barrister, a judge?
No, an attorney. It's an attorney.
Oh, an attorney. Forgive me. I didn't even know. Okay.
So the guy that represents... So in England, solicitors do all the back-end stuff, the paperwork, the wills, the probate. But a barrister can represent you in court. Not all lawyers in England can stand in a court and defend you. It's not like America where you can... Yeah, it's different. So anyway, the reason why is... They won't admit they're in sales. The other one is they believe they have to be professional all the time. And one of the things I teach people is the key to being a good salesman is not actually being a salesman. So I deliberately struggle on purpose because I know that when I struggle, it forces the other person to rescue me. And when they rescue me, their mum gives them a stroke and says, you're a nice kid. And he feels good about himself. So the more people feel good about themselves when they're around me, they start to lower their defense walls. So I deliberately struggle. I don't take a pen to a sales meeting and I have to borrow one. And I act like I'm embarrassed. It's all part of the making them comfortable. So lawyers and accountants can't act like that because they feel they've got to behave a certain way the whole time. But actually you'll find the best lawyers are the ones that people at first think, I'm not really too sure if he knows what he's doing, but actually he's really good because they don't feel they need to impress you. Someone who's very good at what they do doesn't feel the need to impress. I don't need you to like me. I need you to trust me. And they're two different things. For you to trust me, I'm going to have to ask you uncomfortable questions. And to do that, you need to feel comfortable. So I've got to make you comfortable, ergo, I'll act less professional.
So what you're really saying is in sales, if you acknowledge and own that you're in sales, you can do human.
Yes.
You can do human.
You've got to admit.
Those two hung up on professionalism. And I'm not implying that somebody shouldn't be professional, but it can take away a little bit of the human factor.
It does. So think of it this way. When you were at school, unless it was you, did anybody like the smartest kid in class?
No.
Yeah. Why do salespeople try and be the smartest person in the room?
To show off, I'm assuming.
Exactly, and it doesn't work. It alienates people. So by allowing people to feel comfortable around me, they lower their defense walls. Because naturally they don't trust me because I'm a salesman. The greatest honor I know is this. Whenever I go out to a party or I'm at some social event, I got the long hair, I never dress up fancy, and I'll be talking away with somebody, and eventually they finally get round to saying, so what do you do for a living? Because I never answer it. I go, what do you think I do? So I flick it back. Yeah, and they look at me and they go, Are you like a musician or something? No. Why do you think that? Well, you got the long... No, I'm not a musician. What else do you think I could be? And I go, well, I've enjoyed it. You're quite good at listening. Are you a counselor or something? No, I'm not any of that. And they go, no, what are you? And I go, if I told you I'm a corporate sales trainer, what would you say? They go, no. I go, why? They go, well, you're not an asshole.
So speaking of the long hair and the whatever, what's with the red suspenders?
Well, they hold my trousers up, but...
Well, and you're not wearing them now, but I see them always or almost always.
It all goes back to the psychology. So when I turn up to an office for the first time, and if someone's never seen any of my videos or know who I am, I get that look. And it's that look that I look for. And it's that look of incredulity. You see the MD or the CEO look at me, and I see that look, and it's like, who is this idiot? And the moment I get that look, I know that I'm probably going to win, because they don't feel threatened by a guy in suspenders with long hair who's forgotten a pen. And the moment that I'm able to do what I do, they forget all about that because I'm good at asking questions and getting them thinking. And so, the true story, I work with some currency traders in the city of London, proper Wolf of Wall Street stuff. So I rocked up on the first day. No one had actually met me per se, and I turned up, and I go into their really flash offices. And I've got my hat on, I've got a jacket on, and I'm carrying a box. And the receptionist, I said, yes, I'd like to speak with so-and-so, the CEO. She goes, have you got a delivery for him? I said, no, I have an appointment. She goes, well, I'll let him know you're here. And I sat in reception for ages. I don't even think they phoned up. I think they just ignored me. So remember, this girl came down and I go, excuse me, are you with ABC Company? She goes, yeah. I go, you couldn't let Brian know that Benjamin's here, could you? And she goes, oh, you must be the painter. I said, no, tell him it's the expensive sales trainer. And I thought, this is it. You walk into these plush offices and you get confused with the deliveryman and the painter when actually you're a highly paid consultant. And that makes me feel good, because when I stand in front of a room full of guys suited and booted, and I get the question, and I get it all the time. I had one said to me, Benjamin, I'll be up front with you. I understand what you're saying and why you reckon we should do and behave like this. He goes, well, to be honest, we don't sell to people like that. If you did what you do to the sorts of people we sell to, I think they'd throw you out. I said, no, that's a fair point. So can I ask you a question then? I said, how did I get here? Your CEO is exactly the type of man you sell to. So how is it that I am here if what you said is right?
So you're talking about victories. Do you ever get shut down because you forgot your pen? And how are you going to teach us how to sell if you can't remember the number one basic, a pen? Let's be honest. Come on.
No, the pen has probably made me more money than anything else, because the number of people that pull me up on it at the end of the meeting. I remember this is a true story. I remember one CEO, we get to the end of the meeting. He goes, all right, Benjamin. He goes, I tell you what. He goes, I'm in. I want to do this. I believe you can help me and I want to work with you. He goes, but I've got one question. I said, yeah, what is it? Shoot. He goes, that thing you did at the beginning of this meeting with your pen, was that a trick? I scratch my head. I go, what do you mean? See, I never answer. I flick it back with a question. What do you mean? And then he has to justify what he just said. Well, he goes, I don't think you forgot to bring a pen. I think you did that on deliberate. I think that's some sort of technique that you're using on me. Now, we're in a boardroom with other people. And this lady on the board said, why would he forget to bring a pen? And he goes, I don't know, but I know he's done it for a reason. And she goes, well, I can't see why anyone would do it. It's unprofessional. And then I turned to her and I said, can I ask you a question? Who taught you had to be a professional when selling? She goes, well, you have to be. I said, yeah, but who taught you that and why? Well, because you're representing the company. You can't turn up and look unprofessional. I said, so if you forgot a pen, what would you be thinking about at the moment? She goes, well, I'd feel embarrassed. I go, so can I ask you a question? Why are you thinking or feeling about you in a sale? And she goes, and before she could answer, the CEO snapped his finger. And this is all done because the first thing he told me when we spoke on the phone before I met him was he needed a mindset change in his salespeople. And at that precise moment, he clicked his finger and he said, mindset. This man has a completely different mindset from all of us. That's why. He goes, so was it a move? I said, well, if I told you it wasn't, what would you say? See, another question. And he goes, well, I wouldn't want to call you a liar. I said, in that case, I'll be upfront with you. It is a move. He goes, I thought so. I just knew it was some sort of trick. And I go, and explain to you why I do it. I go, and this is the truth. I said, I do this all the time. And do you know what actually has happened now? I actually genuinely do forget to bring pens now. And he goes, because it's a habit. I said, yes. He goes, that's even better. Hook, line, and sinker. So if you want to be treated differently in the sale, you have to act differently. And most salespeople act the same way. They show up, they throw up, and they hope.
That's well put. Well, we're getting a free seminar here. I mean, listen, folks, this is an expensive guy.
Yes, very. And it's not American dollars, it's the proper pound.
It's it's real money. It's a pound.
Real currency, yeah.
But in America, we think that, we of course set the world standard on everything. Now, you were working here in Florida.
I was there at the beginning of last year in Florida. I'm coming back to America. I've been invited to speak at some event run by insurers, funnily enough, in, where am I going? Somewhere in Texas. I can't remember the name of it. San Antonio, Texas. I'll be there in September. Yes.
Very nice.
But I'd like to get back to...
I'm glad you can travel again. So now when you talk to your customers or your prospects and you say, this is going to be very expensive and this is going to take a long time, we can't do a 2-hour session and a dog and pony show and cure. So now I'm going to ask you a question, though. Is there a quick something that one of our listeners who's in sales can take with them, or is that just forget about that?
Most salesmen are order takers. They just refuse to acknowledge it. And most salespeople, therefore, if they're an order taker, tend to talk themselves out of orders than into them, because it's yours to effectively lose, in theory. If someone's decided they want what you have and you somehow turn them off of it, that's not very good. So this is what I do. I was in the back of a taxi off to have a meeting with a company CEO, and I was rereading the email that he'd sent me. And as I was reading it, I got this gut feeling. And my gut said, I think he's already decided to work. I don't know why. It's just the way this is done. So I had to change my game plan. So I get in front of the CEO and I said, can I ask you a question before we start? I said, it's a really weird question. And he goes, no, ask it. And I said, are you sure? Because whatever you answer is going to dictate how I behave for the rest of this meeting. And he goes, go for it. And I said, so my question's this. Have you already decided you want to work with me? And the purpose of this meeting is to figure out what that would look like? Or do you need to be convinced by the end of this meeting that I'm someone you should invest in? And he looked at me and goes, it's a good question. I said, I know. I need a good answer. And then he, being power play, he turned to me and he did the typical power move. He goes, well, let me put it this way, Benjamin. This is yours to lose. And I said, oh, I like that. Tough guy, give him a stroke. And I said, okay, well, can I just say this in response to that? I said, if we do work together, the first thing I'll teach you is you can't lose something you never actually had. So what are you telling me? Is yes, actually, we are going to work with you. So the rest of the meeting is taking an order. Now, you could do that on a car yard. Can I ask you a question? Have you already decided you want to buy a car and the purpose of today is to figure out which car it is to leave with? Or do you need to be convinced that investing in a new car is what you need to be doing right now? Which are you? And people will tell you, no, I want to leave with a car today. Right, let's see if we can find one for you. There's a good chance we won't because we just had a big sale and all the good stuff's gone. No, you can't say that. No, don't worry. Well, and then you make out that, and you just keep building it up. We don't have... So yeah, and I've used that now about a dozen times, and I only use it when I feel it. Every time I've got the answer I wanted, and the answer's always been, no, we've decided. So this isn't a sales meeting, I'm here to take an order. That's easy.
Well, what I keep noticing with you, I mean, I'm writing down notes. I don't know if you notice. I'm leaning over while you're talking. I got a legal pad full here because I'm going to use it because my day-to-day job is I'm selling. So I'm really in gratitude to get to talk to you. But what I also notice with you is who you are and your delivery. And I'm assuming that this must be in your training. Because I've had people say to me, and I've trained many people over 20 years, and, well, Jeff, you can do that, but I can't do that. And that's always frustrating to me because none of this stuff was natural to me in the beginning. Everything was the result of me having a good mentor or copying someone that didn't know they were my mentor. I was just watching them and copying, or reading books, or whatever. None of it was natural. None of it was comfortable. None of it was, well, you just have this natural talent. It was all learned. It was all learned. And then, like you said, when we're making the dial, many of us are saying, please don't answer, please don't answer. And sometimes, and here I am, a veteran, 27, for God's sake, I'm battle tested, 27 years in car dealerships, and now 9 years selling to car dealers. Could anyone be more scarred up? But there are times when there's someone I need to call for something, or my owner actually recently wanted me to approach another company about a certain partnership, but we'd had difficulty with them before. And I had that moment of needing to get ready for it. But all I have to do is have that conversation with myself, like, what's the worst that can happen? Maybe they can come through the phone and kill me, or hang up on me. That's really about it. And then you just do it. But I love that you are, I'm going to say, smiling, and it may not be an outright smile, but I think that you're choosing your state. Am I right? Like you're working on your state a lot, not just the words.
I'm a chameleon. And when I get in front of a prospect, I give them the personality they need to feel comfortable with. So this is why when a salesman says, you can do that, but I can't. And technically the answer is right. No, you can't, because your personality is wrong. But you can create a persona and learn how to act like a different type of person. And once you learn how to do that, when you're in front of a CEO, you've got to behave a different way to being in front of a finance director. CEO doesn't care about the minutia. He's blue sky, big picture. Let's get a move on. The finance director's data, facts, figures, stats, process. You can't sell to them. A guy in a Hawaiian shirt won't sell to a guy in a pinstripe suit. But if the guy in a Hawaiian shirt puts on a pinstripe suit and tones down and has less chatter and is more detailed focus, the other guy will probably buy from him. So you've got to give your prospect the personality they need, not who you are. And this is why I tell people, you can't be you on a sales meeting, because you will only meet your personality 20% of the time. This is why most salesmen say, well, people buy because of me. No, they only remember the times that people like them bought from them. They forget the 80% of times people thought they were a dick.
That's right. And we all do that. And it's funny because Benjamin, I believe that you've got to take credit for everything. So we all have these times that we remember and talk about. And for me, I hope it's daily, or certainly more than once a week, where I don't think anyone else but me would have gotten that deal. Well, and obviously that's not true, because if I wasn't alive, people would still be buying things in the world. But I sometimes feel like, man, oh man, I really had an impact on making that deal. But if I don't take accountability for, or responsibility for, that I had something to do with the 80% that don't buy from me.
They'll take all the glory when they win, but when they lose, it wasn't their fault. It was timing, it was the economy, it was the election, it was COVID, it's the competitors, it was... No, what did you do wrong? Oh, nothing. I did what I always do. I just don't get it this time.
It's always our fault when we get the deal, and it's not our fault. Okay.
So imagine saying to a lawyer, why do you win trials? And it was my winning personality. No, seriously. No, yeah, it's my winning person. Okay, I'm not going to hire you. You go to the other guy. Why do you win trial? Why? Because I know exactly what question to ask, when to ask it, when to challenge, when not, when to look at a jury, when to raise, I got a whole routine, baby, and I've done it so many times I know how it works. Okay, I'll hire you because you know what you're doing. It's not luck.
So you've put a lot of this stuff, obviously, into your habits. Obviously. So talking to you, I'm trying to pull you into conversation, because so much of this is push a button on you and hit play for the stuff that you probably say in your sales meetings and seminars. Very, very well practiced. So what about a bad habit that you have that you're having a hard time shaking?
Ooh, a bad habit.
You need to stop doing it, but you just can't.
Yeah, what do I need to stop doing? Ooh, it's a good one. I should have asked myself this one before I came on the show.
Well, for me, here, I'm going to answer. And by the way, this is not rehearsed. It's just as we're talking. So that I've noticed that so much is in your cell memory, what you talk about, that I started thinking there's got to be some habit. So then as you're thinking about it, I'm thinking about it. So on the deals I don't make, much more often on phone than in retail showroom, I think that I'm believable, and I think that I'm credible, and I think that I'm honest, and I think that I have integrity, and I think that I'm a nice guy, and I think that the person already knows that or assumes that about me, and that they're believing everything I'm saying. And then I could overstep the comfort level based on where the other guy is. When I lose a deal, very often when I look back, it's because I didn't allow the other person enough time to know me or give myself an opportunity to get known. But it's a bad habit, but I also am happy about that with myself because, and like it ain't bragging if it's true. I mean, just when I'm analyzing myself, it's because I believe that I'm honest and I believe that I'm trying to help them out for the best solution. And I don't do anything with a contract. So people stay with us for years, and it doesn't do me any good to stuff anyone into anything that they're going to leave me 5 minutes later over. So even if I was a scoundrel, there's no motivation for that. But sometimes I forget that I'm not known to the other person.
No, it's good. I'm glad you said it because I've got what I do. Yeah, you've that prompt.
I bought you a minute. Okay.
Did. That was good, and I understand what you're saying. So mine would go back to my original problem, which I've got a lot better at having fixed, but it is still a constant challenge for me. And that is I lack nurturing. I'm a very blunt sort of person. Now, it works most of the time, and a lot of people who come to me now expect a certain character. But I sometimes know that if I've lost a deal, if I look back at it, it's not because of anything I've done, it's the way I've said it. And I've looked back and I thought, and now I'm thinking of it, it was when I asked that question in that way, I think that's the moment I lost them. And so there's a lack of nurturing, and it's something we're all guilty of as salespeople. So when I first started selling, I would actually say to people at the beginning, I said, I could be upfront with you. I said, I tend to ask a lot of questions, but I tend to do it in a way that makes people annoyed. I said, so can you help me? If I ask a question that annoys you, rather than sit there and stew, can you just tell me and I'll apologize? And what would happen is, first of all, most MDs would say, don't worry about it, Benjamin, just do what you have to. But it gave me a safety net to practice nurturing, but if I slipped, at least it didn't blow up. I've stopped doing that. And I think on occasions, on deals that I should have won but didn't, it's probably because I've lacked the nurturing and made them feel, I just think this guy's a little too harsh on confrontation. I don't want to be like him. Yes, that would be fair. So yeah, I've still got, like I said, I'm never going to be a Zen master at this. I'm always on my way there. But I'll only be better. And that's the good thing I like about what I do, is because I will be better this time next year than I am now. That's a career. Most salespeople, as you know from your experience, they don't have 5, 10, 15 years experience. They've just had the same year 5, 10, or 15 times over.
Well, Benjamin, it's funny that you say that. And I want to, look, all respect to salespeople. I respect salespeople. No doubt about it. To me, that's the highest title you can have on a business card, this salesperson. But a thing that concerns me or makes me feel bad when certain salespeople experience this is, that you'll be better next year. I hope I can say that about myself. I'm conscious of it, so I hope I'm improving, and my numbers tend to get better year over year. And the situations that I run into that used to be sticky are now not sticky as often. But I think that the brunt of salespeople that don't want to hone their craft and talk to someone like you, like I'm not like a terrible salesperson, but I'm still seeking someone out like you. That's how I found you. But they tend to, they don't have 15 years experience or 10 years experience. They have 1 year experience 10 times, or they have 1 year experience 15 times.
And it goes back to the fundamental reason of how people got into sales. 90% of people in sales are there by default, not design. This was never the plan. And the problem is, because they deep down don't want to be there, why would you actually try to get really good? It's, it's like saying, why do you want to be a professional golfer? It's, I don't. So why are you on the professional circuit? I fell into it and I don't know how to get out.
Well, right. It's quite literally a stopover job that can sometimes consume their whole life or certainly decades. I'm fortunate that I wanted to go into sales and aggravated my dad because he didn't want me to, but I loved it. So, Benjamin, what about something that nobody knows about you?
That nobody knows about me. Oh yeah, I suppose a lot of people would know this. I'm a mini theologian. I love theology. And it's not something you can really talk about with a lot of people because it's quite hard to understand. It can be quite... So I'm all into understanding the difference between Catholicism and Protestantism, eschatology, which is a study of end times, hermeneutics, and trying to understand how ancient biblical scripts are put together. So that's something I do on the side, and it's something I enjoy, and I do that. But it's not something I ever talk about. It's not something I ever... Because... It's just, I find it fascinating. And again, because it's all language and everything, language and interpretation and structure. And that's why, again, I was attracted to law, language, structure. Sales is language, structure. So there's this theme, I guess, that runs through. So by nature, I've got a lot of C in me. I shouldn't be this as gregarious, outgoing because I qualified as a lawyer. They're quite detailed people. So I have that part of my brain, but it's kept sort of in the background. Because when I'm out selling, that guy will get in the way. Because that guy will want to talk too much about detail. So I keep him in the back. But he comes out in my private life. Yeah.
I appreciate that answer. That's a great answer. And it's nice for me, and I hope for our audience, and I forgot, until I just said that we're recording this and it's for an audience. It's nice to know you more than the selling machine. There's more to you, and you're a good guy.
And this is another thing that people, I spent so much time of my life talking to people. I'm in front of audiences. I'm delivering seminars. I'm doing training sessions. I'm recording videos. I'm always, once that camera shuts off, I'm an incredibly reserved, quiet, sit at home because I just get sick of people. And I think some people forget that when you're out there all the time, and people say to your wife, it must be so great living with him. It's like, no, it's not. He's different when he's out doing his thing. Because when I come home, I hate having people over. I hate all of that because it's the one place I can go that I can escape having to talk.
Your sanctuary. You've been performing, and I'm on the phone all day, and I love being on the phone, and I love my customers, but I'll get 10 people that say, call me after work, and I don't want to call anybody.
Yeah.
Because when I'm done on the phone, I don't want to be on the phone, especially if I'm home and around my family. What about something that you'd want us to know about you?
Well, I'll tell you what I'd want you to know, seeing as this is an American audience. I need to do more work in America.
What do you drive?
Well, it's a Nissan, it's a Nissan Navara, but I was literally just showing my daughter, seen a really cool, I think it's the Ford Tecna, and it looks like a tank, and we were just looking at that, and I said, should we get that? I got to figure out how much it weighs because there's certain weight limits on the car park facilities. But yeah, but no. But I also a Toyota Hilux. They're like indestructible. In fact, find a war spot in the world and spot the terrorists. They're always on a Hilux.
Now I'm gonna look that up. Benjamin, I'm grateful. Honestly, been an absolute treat. I appreciate the time you took out of your very busy schedule to give to me. I contacted you out of the blue as a literal fan, and you were so nice to say, sure, let's set a time, and we did.
No, happy to help.
This has been Jeff Stearns, Connected Through Cars.